Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this breakout session. We are in the breakout session about integrating ESG in your manufacturing strategy. And where are you now? I hope you are in the right one. So it's not an AI, it's just because we haven't said that we might touch on that today. I'm a chair for this session. My name is Walid Muntasser, and I'm a senior learning and development consultant within Make UK with the Environmental Health and Sustainability team. Some of you maybe came across me. I'm the rubbish guy, so I love rubbish, I work in rubbish, and my life is rubbish, but don't tell my wife. Basically, I've been working in the sustainability for the last 25 years, and it's very interesting to see how things are actually changing in terms of sustainability. I have to say, when I started my journey in sustainability, just starting with something now we call it historic. And it's interesting to share that journey, and that's the idea about today. This session is basically about understanding of what's happening with the environmental, social, and governance, or what we call ESG, and how that has changed already, and what's the journey at the moment. Last year, for those who already attended the manufacturing conference, the same room actually, we had another session about ESG. We were introducing the ESG, so we're not here to teach you about ESG or what is ESG actually. We're going to talk about progression from last year. The reason for that is that in the last 12 months, there has been a lot of progression, and some of the panelists here will be talking about that, because basically ESG now become a requirement. And some of you, if you have already been with Make UK, some of the conference we've done on webinars, we had already a really good piece of report. I would encourage you to have a look at it. We have with partnership with Lloyds Bank about ESG in manufacture and how ESG has been taken up by the manufacturing in the UK. And ESG is not something fancy now or something that is big corporates are doing it. It has been already cascaded into many levels within the industry and businesses. And to give you about the scale, in the past, it used to be businesses will do an ESG as a matter to show how they actually do care about the environment, how they do care about the workforce, and how they actually being ethical and looking into their governance parts. At the moment now, we have more and more pressure, not only from consumer, but also governments. And we have seen many regulations that came out in the last couple of years talking about corporates and businesses need to report and put KPIs and integrate ESG in their businesses. And this is what we want to talk about, because it's not only something we have seen like last year, many of our members were talking to us about the CSRD, if you have heard about it, like the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, or for example, in the US, where we already have the Security Exchange Commission already passed the ESG regulation about 2 years ago. It's also coming into the UK for various regulations, and it will be actually mandatory and starting with companies with 500 million turnover or 500 employees to start reporting from 2026. So this is something will come. How that will affect any manufacturer in the UK, as part of that will be affecting yourself, because you basically, as part of the supply chain or working with your client customers, you will have to be part of that element of reporting. And we have seen many of the business already starting to be asked as part of the supply chain or a recruitment actually about ESG element. So the report I mentioned that my colleagues in the policy team have done last year with Lloyds Bank have found over 77% of manufacturing in the UK covered by that report already being asked an element of ESG. Whether they've been asked about environmental management system, or they've been asked about health and safety in terms of incidents, or been asked about governance elements such as, for example, diversity and inclusion in their workplace. So this is very interesting, and it's an interesting time. And we are here today to talk about ESG and how the journey has been already from last year since we spoke to our members. This year we are talking about how the journey has been too far through our panelists. And I'm here to introduce our panelists here. We're starting with Louise O'Brien, who's the Managing Director of Greyhound Box. We have Mike Smith, QHSC Manager from SMC. And we also have Richard Cooke, Business Development Manager from Keepler, and Dr. Tony Bannon, who are Chairman of P&M Longworth Limited. We'll hear from all the speakers about how and about ESG, and we'll have a lot of time about questions. And please ask questions. It's important. This is the idea about this session. We are here to discuss about your journey and their journey for ESG. Because I'm sure every one of you in your business, you already have been asked about ESG, one element or another. So we're gonna, first of all, we're gonna, starting with Louise O'Brien, Managing Director of Greyhound Books. Thank you.
We're a small business, and what we've tried to do with our journey is really to bring it into a way of life in the business. It's a commitment from us, but it's about ensuring our staff are all committed as well. And you can do big projects, we've found, but you can also do some small things, and I think it's getting used to doing small things that's been important to us on our journey. You know, waste management's been very important to us. Sometimes you have to spend money to get that result, but you have to spend money to actually create efficiency. And that's been difficult over the last few years, especially during lockdowns. You haven't wanted to invest any money, but we've had to do that. And as a result of improving waste management, we've actually created efficiency and increased productivity. So there is a cost sometimes. There's more benefits than reducing CO2. There's efficiencies gained. But it is a way of life, and it's everybody playing their part in the business, whether it's just separating our waste, or it's having things like an environmental survey done in your business. You've got to be open to other experts coming into your business and talking to you and teaching you. And as I say, it's our commitment. We work in an industry that's very environmentally friendly anyway, so we're into recycling, but it just extends that. And after the ISO 14001, it just makes you more confident in what you're doing, and I think that's what's very important to everybody, and being on that journey. Everything we do plays a part in the environment. We've built the sustainability into our risk register, so every decision we make, we've just built it in. And it sounds daunting, but once you step into it, it becomes much easier to build that into every decision. You know, looking at vehicles, transport, everything you do, it sounds daunting, but by partnering with other people, I think that's where we've succeeded on our journey, and using other experts and not being afraid to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Louise. And I'm going to hear now from Mike Spee. He's already the QHSC manager from SMC. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my slide, when it comes up, you see it's a bit more detailed. That's the engineer in me. So I've over-delivered there on the slide. I must learn to less is more. But you can read this, but yeah, let me talk about the journey. What's been important for us is the leadership engagement. Leadership support from day one is vitally important. Without that, you're not going to get any initiatives off the ground. They have resourced the business appropriately. We are a fairly large business. We're 400 people, 70 to 80 million turnover. We're a 14-acre site, manufacturing, distribution. We design products for the pneumatics and control industry. So we are a large site. Leadership support has been fantastic, that we've had additional resources to meet our ESG journey. We've had suitable resource in HR. You know, not everyone's HR is on site, I realise that, but we're fortunate we have an HR team, and we gave that HR team the remit to really engage socially with our community, with our employees. Some of the, I suppose, best aspects is the outreach programs we have with schools, colleges in the area. We've recently supported a project at Milton Keynes College to encourage girls into STEM. As we know, this is an area that we're trying to encourage, and it's been it was very beneficial. We supplied equipment, we supplied some expertise, and you know, we're continuing to do more of those programs. We support local charities with fundraising, and this is a great element to report on a yearly basis as part of our SECR reporting requirement. A company of our size is required to report for SECR, ESOS, you know, the Energy Savings Opportunity Scheme. Those reporting elements have really driven a change in the business as well. we learned that to be able to deliver on these reports, to work with consultants for these reports, that you need a certain element of data. Our journey has been from, I'm sure many of you feel, sort of the bills, your utility bills that you're working with on a quarterly basis. And then you move to capturing that data on a monthly basis in Excel. And then you end up with smart meters where you can view half-hourly data. So certainly the insights we've gained have improved over time, and it helps to validate some of the initiatives that we have driven. We were fortunate that we installed, we got funding support for a solar panel system onto the factory roof in 2023 when energy prices, as you know, were very high. We're thankful that that system is now implemented. Benefit of that system has been a 40% reduction in our electricity usage across the year. I would say, Louise touched on it, our IMS has really helped as well with engagement with leadership. We have regular 6-monthly reviews with our leadership. We go for a steeple or PESEL analysis, look at the new risks and opportunities. It could be supply chain issues, material costs, energy costs. Again, a very useful, let's say, meeting for us as an environmental group, as an environmental committee, to get that feedback from leadership on where our priorities should lie. In terms of our next step in our journey, as Waleed said, ESG, a greater requirement to reports. We are getting more requests from customers, from our OEMs, to deliver a sustainability report. We've done that very recently, but we're still not getting a lot of interest from customers, I must say. I think it's government that's driving this, or European Union that's driving this. So as a company, we are supporting the CSRD implementation in Europe. The leadership wanted the UK to engage in the project with our European colleagues, and I must say it's a daunting activity, CSRD, if you do go down that path. It starts with a gap analysis. Where are you against the framework? And I must say that everything we've put in place to date has got us to within 80-90% of what CSRD is looking for in the taxonomy. We're now going through the double materiality analysis, an inside-out perspective as well as an outside-in financial perspective as well. I only hope that the European Union does look to scale it back a little bit, because this project, it's just all time consuming. So resource is very important if you're going to go down that path.
Oh, that's very interesting. Thank you very much, Mike, for that. And our next speaker, and I'm sure, Mike, there will be a lot of questions later on. Our next speaker is Richard Cooke from Keepler. Is the business development manager. Richard.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Richard Cooke, and as Waleed said, I lead business development for Keepler Data Tech in the UK. So I just want to, start by picking up on a couple of things that have just been spoken about. Louise spoke about the need for the business to invest in ESG initiatives in order to get the kind of outcomes they were expecting. And Mike talked about the need to have alignment among the leadership to actually drive any of these things forward. I think it's quite easy to get stuck in a cycle of ESG being perceived as a cost by the business, when in fact there are many, many opportunities, if you can find them and prioritize them correctly, to attach real business value, real efficiencies to what you're trying to do in ESG. And really that's what we're trying to do at Keepler. So part of what I'm doing on this panel is ticking the box for AI, because we need to have some mention of AI during the meeting, clearly. But what do we do? I mean, fundamentally what Keepler does, and our ESG journey looks a little different to the manufacturers that have just spoken, is we work with customers to help them unlock value at scale from their data. And that starts by thinking about what are the business outcomes that we're looking to achieve. Is the priority to reduce risk? Is the priority to drive operational efficiency or create top-line revenue? How do we do that? Well, we co-create intelligent products, data products, AI products with the customer that use the customer's data and the customer's subject matter expertise to drive those outcomes. And we use clever technology to do that, but that's not particularly interesting. What's much more interesting, because it references what we heard during the keynote this morning, is skills. You're probably all struggling to some extent with having the right skills to go after these things. And we've tried to create a model where we'll come into the customer with an end-to-end team and help to build self-sufficiency in the customer so they can manage those things themselves once Keepler's work is done. Now, how's all of that kind of relevant to manufacturing? Well, we think about ESG in this kind of data and AI world as how do you do more with less? Ultimately, it's about dematerialization. How can we produce our product using less raw material? How can we have less waste, less scrap? Product innovation. How can we produce our product, or how can we think about and understand, Mike talked about reporting, the carbon impact of our products right through the whole supply chain, in particular energy usage, which we're going to come on and talk about in a second, to be able to innovate for products with a less intensive carbon process that we can then recommend to our customers, which benefits us and benefits our customers. And then we think about operational efficiency, and that could be anywhere from the production process to production planning to supply chain optimization. Really, there's a whole raft of things, a raft of initiatives that can both benefit our ESG ambitions as an organization and also deliver a financial benefit for us. There's two main areas that we kind of intersect with this. The first one is that data readiness piece, and Mike spoke about it in the context of reporting. So businesses, typically one of the big challenges they have with ESG is they're riddled with silos. The information that you need is stuck in different databases or is stuck across the business. You're dealing with different vendors, some of whom will update you monthly, some of whom won't. AI offers the possibility to pull that information together in ways that were just inconceivable a couple of years ago, to start to read some of those sources in real time and start to create a view of all of that information so we can present it back to our colleagues and they can make better decisions. We work with a cement company in Europe who basically had exactly this scenario, a lot of information stuck in different silos, no real ability for their planners or for their consultants and BAs to be able to cross information and create the CO2 metrics that they wanted to have. They wanted to understand what's the cost per cubic meter of product produced for carbon impact. So we work with them basically to be able to pull all of this information together, present that in a real-time dashboard, and allow them to start actually reporting in an automated way rather than the manual way they did previously on the carbon impact. Once you've got that kind of data readiness layer and that information is being presented back to teams in a way that they can consume, then you can start to get into AI activation. Now that we have a good baseline to work from, we can start thinking about how do we automate our processes, how do we scale them to drive them across the entire business. We worked here with a company that produces plastic bottles for a popular red food condiment, and basically helped them to understand they wanted to reduce their scrap rate. They had a hypothesis that we're throwing away too much product. There must be a better way to look at how we do our production, and we have some data coming in from sensors in the field, some from manual inputs from our engineers. We want to be able to bring that down. So we basically built out for them an AI model that looks at all of the different variables, the temperature in the room, the constitution of the plastics, the pressure in the room, to be able to look at how they reduced their scrap rate. And ultimately the output of that was a 20% reduction in what they use. Now, that has a really, really huge impact from an ESG perspective, but it also has a massive impact from a fiscal perspective. And if you can find these initiatives, you won't struggle to get them prioritised and addressed by the business, which will address the 2 points that were raised around investment and leadership initiatives.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much, Richard. And I think interesting about the plastic, the red condiment, that was the highlight of that. Thank you very much. And our last speaker, Dr. Tony Pennon, who's the chairman of B&M Longos Limited.
Thanks, Waleed. Hello, everybody. Just first, quickly, why we've been invited. My small business has won the Energy and Sustainability Award, the national award from Make UK, this last one late last year, which is quite remarkable, really, for a firm of less than 20 people. We've got lots of local stuff, local awards over the years, and some regional things, industry specific, but never a national award. So very pleased and quite proud to have won that. Basically, the tech we've developed is a recycling technology, and it commonly for plastics and composite type materials, there are established 3 ways of recycling stuff. You either shred it, so mechanical recycling, crushed and so on. You either boil it up and thermally degrade it using methods like pyrolysis, or you chemically break it down. None of them have got none have got all the answers. There are problems with all of them. And our business basically developed a tech that uses a 4th system that we thought we were being original, we called it pressolysis, because it uses pressure and heat, just uses water. So it basically uses steam to break down advanced materials like composite, polymer composites and glass fibre composites and so on. You can recover the fibres pristine condition, so carbon fibre is very expensive and glass fibre less so, but still relatively high in cost. And the energy required to produce carbon and glass fibres is huge. So if you can recover it, it's a massive boost. We can also recover some of the chemicals, the constituent chemicals that go into the resins that bind the fibres in a composite material. So it's breakthrough technology. So we're very proud of what we've done. Unfortunately, we've managed to fund it. It's cost us a lot of money. Now, about 25% of our turnover over the last 15 years we've put into R&D to develop this and get the IP. And we've done it to pilot scale. We want to take it to industrial scale, which is a big step. We know what's needed. It's essentially engineering. It's nothing particularly innovative. It's scale up. So very interesting tech. The driver behind all of this is the primary owner of the company is a gentleman called John Norris, who was actually my mentor when I finished my apprenticeship 40 years ago. Grief. And he never liked spending money, did John? So even then, this is in the mid-80s, and John used to say, if you can use it twice, lad, use it twice. If you can use it 5 times, try and figure it out. And that's what we did. We're a small business building machinery, and we always used to bear in mind the reuse of something. So if you're building from steel, try and reuse steel if you can. If you're putting drive systems in and motors in, this is complex machinery, it's not simple stuff. If you don't need 25 kilowatts, don't use 25 kilowatts, because at the end of the day, it's costing. That's the kind of mentality that you need. So for our journey in ESG, excuse me, using the phrase journey, but everybody does, we were very much focused on the E. And that's why we've done what we've done, and it's been a remarkable success. What we want to do is take it to the next level, and we're going to need some investment and partnerships to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony, and thank you very much, everyone, for your presentation. It's now time for questions. It's your turn now if you have any questions, thoughts you wanted to throw at the panelists, please. Yes? Question here, please. Can we have the mic here, please? Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Bill Scott. I'm CEO for Wilton Engineering, based in Teesside. Quite interesting to hear all of your stories. A lot of it is about environmental, but I'm quite interested to hear about your social and governance rather than environmental.
Yeah, I think our social program, as I talked about, did require an HR team that were willing to engage with the local community. They created a CSR program, essentially, so a schedule of activities, events. We opened the doors to the public, I think, in timing with the Make UK Manufacturing Day. We have work placements, so kids from local schools and colleges can spend a week or 2 weeks with us. That's required HR to pull all the manufacturing and design heads together, the managers, to say, yeah, we're willing to commit resource, because these events take time. They do take you away from your day-to-day job. But conversely, what we see the benefit from that is our apprenticeship program, you know, is over subscribed by local schools, kids applying for our apprenticeship program, which has been a big benefit of our outreach program. I call it outreach, but you know, our engagement with local schools and colleges.
I think one thing that we've worked with is a local charity on wood recycling and upcycling, so making furniture and different bits of equipment, and they are a local charity, so we donate all our waste wood, pallets, whatever it may be. It does cost a little bit more money for disposal of our wood, but it's about, again, supporting the local charity and the work that they do. So that's something that we've got involved with, apart from hosting sustainability workshops, but that is a little bit business focused as well, but we've sort of tried to play our part in education.
Can I just chip in a thought, actually, slightly different angle on it, but I started with this small company that I'm talking about here 40 years ago, and then promptly after a few years went and left and joined a much bigger company and ended up as chief exec of the bigger group. Not particularly big, about 3,000 people, which is for the UK fairly large. My view on this is to run a big company in the same way, or using some of the same disciplines and people-centric policies that you use in a small company. Because small companies tend to have to look after the people. If you're one person out of 15 or 20 and you lose that one person who's crucial to your operation, it's a real headache. Less so at 3,000 if you've got 200 people or even 100 people. So I think that's very much, and again, it predates ESG as a theme. It's essentially about making sure you look after people properly.
And I'll build on that from an example, not actually from one of our customers, but from something that we do internally as a company. Keepler's a small business. We're 270 people. And so talent retention, as you rightly highlighted, is absolutely critical, particularly in such a competitive field as data and AI. One of the things that our founder was very passionate about is trying to keep a very regular pulse check on how the organisation is feeling. So we actually have a system, it's called Keepler, and it interacts with you as a chatbot. In effect, we have to practice what we preach, right? It interacts with all of our staff on a weekly basis, enabling the organisation to have a pretty much real-time sense of how people are feeling. Just with a simple, you know, like those buttons you press when you go through in an airport to send different kind of faces. A feel of where are people working? We're a remote company. Are people coming into the offices that we have? Are they working from home? How happy are people? And this enables our people team to actually be really, really proactive and engage with the organisation to make sure that we're doing all of the right things in terms of retaining our talent.
And that's a very interesting point, Richard, which I want, because social is very interesting, because just talking about the environment is, and I appreciate that question actually, because many of our members, when we go, it's easier to say data about, for example, energy consumption, but when it comes to the social, it's quite hard. And this is what I wanted to ask you. What are the main challenges then when companies already, Richard, looking into the ESG initiatives and how that can be actually run through AI? Is that really possible, especially with the social perspective? Because people think, what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really complicated area. I mean, it was touched on quite a lot this morning with regards to regulatory uncertainty and all of the risks that come along with that. And it's very, very difficult to architect for something that you don't know, when you don't know what's coming, and there's such volatile geopolitical times. But I think the sort of main challenges that we see organisations thinking about are, have we got the right data? Can we get the right data to actually improve how we make decisions? And how do we make it available to our people? Whether there's a degree of automation in that, or whether that's largely manual, how do we enable our people to make the right decisions on what they're doing? Because we don't want to get into this cycle of, particularly in the area of ESG, we certainly don't want to be perceived as greenwashing or presenting something that's not actually accurate. So how do we put the real, as close to real-time information in the hands of our people? Concerns around bias, particularly when we get into the world of AI, and I was thinking about it from the social perspective actually that was mentioned just now. Once we start to try to use AI to automate some of our internal business processes, how do we make sure that we're not ingraining it with the ingrained human biases that are used on the documents in which we're using to train the AI? That opens up a lot of risks around social impact and discrimination that we need to really be aware of. And it's really, really important that we are understanding what we build, that we're building explainability into what we build, so we're providing that information, again, putting it in the hands of the user. Nobody is suggesting that we get to a situation where you don't have humans in the loop here. It's about augmenting the human experience within the business with technology in the right ways. And then skills. Again, I just can't emphasize it enough. It was spoken about again this morning. How do you create an atmosphere and an ethic in your company where you're able to attract the right skills, you're able to attract people who want to go on that journey of reskilling and retain those people. And all I can say is, what we try to do is really think about, start small, really think about this one initiative at a time, try to create a cross-functional virtual team that blends the expertise of technology and line of business so that you can kind of identify a set of initiatives and gradually and slowly build up the technology, information, knowledge that you require, rather than letting your tech people go at something and not having the line of business knowledge to build something that's actually of use. So those are the core challenges: data quality, bias, regulatory uncertainty, and skills.
That's a really good one, and I would say just not to make computers say no at the end of the day. Is that correct? Thank you, Richard. Any other questions? Yes, so gentleman here, please, first. And then yourself.
I am Paul Edwards, Managing Director at Genesco. I was recently interviewed for an executive survey, so I got a detailed insight into the results. One of the things that struck a chord with me is that younger people coming into work these days actually don't want a career, they want an experience. So it's along that social theme. Just wonder if the panel have got any experience of that, seen that in their businesses. That stumped you.
I know. I mean, we're looking for young people. We are actually offering placements for T-levels, and I think our workforce is getting older, so it's something, that we'd like to see, but we're starting to look at apprenticeships, and hopefully that we'll see something, but it's really that our staff tend to be older, so we're looking forward to sort of some younger people joining the business, and that's when we'll probably have that experience.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. You hear about it all the time. We are an organisation with a very loyal workforce. Most people have been there 30 years. The young people we're bringing in now, we're trying to give them an experience across the whole business. So our apprenticeship program doesn't just focus on, their work in the machining centre or, in HR. We try and give them projects. Cross-company projects to engage them and getting a better awareness of business as a whole. But unfortunately, we do see people leave because, the business moves too slow or it's not moving in the direction that they want. Our environmental initiatives aren't big enough, exciting enough. So unfortunately, we have lost young people for that, and I don't know the answer, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm not sure there is an answer, really. You've got to just go with it now, because it's the way that younger people are seeing their future, isn't it? And the way we've, and somewhat similar really to Mike, we look for ways to give people experience. So in our case, we export a lot. So we're able to, depending on the kind of work it is, where we're installing and commissioning equipment, we're able to encourage people go away to install or assist with the more skilled people. So they get to go to India or China or wherever it is. Most people enjoy it, not everybody, but it's a way to give people experience that they wouldn't otherwise get. It's the only way you'd get to do that usually is join the army and you get shot at. So.
Yeah, and I suppose we're in the technology space, right? So it naturally attracts a lot of younger people who are interested in what we're doing, and retention is critically important to being able to build momentum and grow the company. I think innovation is really not the answer, but it's part of the answer here, right? How can you create an environment where people feel empowered that they can make a real change within the organization? So it's pretty common in tech organizations like ours, small ones, that will run little sort of workshops where the opportunity is there to try and bring a new initiative into the company. Go and break something with technology. If you could put together a cross-functional team in the organization, take a whole day out, go build something and then demo it back to the organization at the end of the day. These types of little things really make people feel invested in what we're doing, and that real change is possible, and it's not just made in a closed room by a bunch of executives. And also availability of executives to the younger people in the organization as well, so that they can see a path of progression. But there's a huge challenge around remote working to add to this, right? As I mentioned, we're a remote company, and I just don't know how young people can be expected to come up to speed anywhere near as quickly as previous generations when they are not in the office around people to learn from. It's a challenge for our time, and the technology, however good it is, it cannot replace what we had before.
That was one of the other outcomes. That was one of the other outcomes of the survey, the challenge of hybrid working, and that obviously is impacting that overall experience. I think one of the challenges in manufacturing is it's traditionally quite an old-fashioned business. A part of that experience is investing in much better facilities and just making the overall environment better. I do have one other quick question.
Yeah,
Apologies, sure. It's a very tactical question, not strategic. It's for Mike. Solar panels, how often do you clean them, and do you see an improvement if you do?
Do you know, I don't know the answer to that. They are serviced yearly. I think it involves a cleaning operation, yeah. We had a number of our inverters go down recently, so yeah, there's problems with solar for sure, but they've been up since 2023. I think pigeon poop is the biggest issue. So we're currently looking at meshing around the solar panels. That was something that we hadn't been made aware of. So that's going to be a huge expense. You can imagine the amount of solar panels, 2,600 solar panels on the roof. Put meshing around to prevent the pigeons from nesting. Trying to find somebody with a hawk to help us out there. But yeah, it's a good point. Something for us to consider.
I think you've probably been lucky because last year has been a wet year, probably. So it's going to be interesting to see if you have any dry season and what's going to happen with that. But unfortunately, that's the case with solar panel. Next question, the gentleman, please, Mike. Thank you.
I am Guy Wells from AJ Wells and Sons. Question for Mike specifically, but others can chip in. But how's your workforce engaged with your journey so far? The positives and the negatives.
We've had an environmental committee for a number of years, led by our environmental officer, happens to be in the room as well. Engagement in that committee fluctuates. I would say it tends to be the older employees that will join that. I think there's a bit of apathy in the younger elements of the workforce when it comes to ESG or environmental activities. We don't have a survey, we don't have an employee survey. We are 100% on site, we're not hybrid. So yeah, we all see each other all the time. It's our engagement with employees. You know, we've done days through the year to try and engage employees, like a litter pick, you know, giving out free seeds, promoting some of the initiatives that we've implemented, like the solar panels, some of the savings. You know, there's a daily production huddle where we share updates once a week from a quality environmental perspective. Yeah, these are the sort of small steps that we're taking, but yeah, engagement with the employees from an ESG perspective, very individual, very, I would say, low-key at the moment.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yeah, please.
Thank you. It's Bruno Nunes from Aston Business School. A quick question here, actually two questions together. First one is, when you're doing all these initiatives, are you looking at specific sustainable market niches, or are you just thinking about continue being eligible to existing customers? And depending on your answer, if you're being pushed to do things through innovation and whether there are collaborations with university to support the innovation process.
Is that for all the panels or is? Yeah. Yes, okay.
Yeah. I think, yeah, just some of the things we do, yes, they could be connected to our industry and targeting particular customers. I think that's what you were saying, isn't it? Yeah, so they could be, but it's about how we behave. This is how we view it. It's about our behaviour. And yes, it all seems to fit into place. Once you start on that journey, everything sort of fits into place because you can work with your customers and offer advice. I think that's one thing from our perspective is we can offer advice in other areas because there's a lot for everybody to take on. You're doing your business and producing your products, and then you have to sort of take on board all these other things. And so for us, that's where the packaging comes in because we can help people with that side of it. So it helps build relationships. It helps them with their products. And yes, it does. You know, you're looking to sort of win new business, of course, but it's about that journey. So that's how we view it. But it's also about our behaviour and what we believe is the right behaviour. Just thinking on your second question, sorry there. What was your, sorry, I apologise.
Whether in this journey that you're mentioning, whether you're being pushed to do things differently or to invest in innovation, and what's the role of university in helping you in that?
Yeah, so you're right, you are being pushed because legislation is pushing you even further and you can't ignore it. You've got to sort of we try to do it in advance of it being in legislation. We try and prepare for it and we try and help customers prepare. We do work with local universities, we work with the local combined authority. You can use lots of free services that they offer. So we're very much involved with local authorities, with the local universities, very much so. We find them very critical in partnership and helping us develop. So yeah, we do.
In our case, we're very much self-driven on most of the initiatives, with one exception, but largely it's driven, motivated from within. The exception really, I suppose, now is there's a developing requirement which is under review to report CO2 footprint in a product. And I'm not sure where that's up to at the moment. It was becoming very, very much the focus of several customers, European customers, but it's on pause. That might be the Trump effect, I don't know, but it's just at the moment it's on hold. But it's a terribly difficult thing to do it properly, and that's going to drive. I think that might be if it's handled even-handedly across the market and the supply chains, it might be a good thing, because it will force, if it is audited or somehow regulated, it will force different companies to genuinely report how much CO2, how much energy they're using in whatever it is they're selling. I just don't have a lot of faith in it because I can't see it being that easy to police. That's the gist of it, really.
Are you referring to CBAM?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's largely the external push, but mostly it's done from internal effort and just a genuine will to stop burying stuff in the ground.
Okay. And next question, yeah, please. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, I'm Carl Walker. I work for Spectral Packaging. We're a plastics manufacturing company. I look after production. I'm on the ESG committee. We've engaged with EcoVadis and other external accreditors for sustainability criteria. I mean, have you had any experience with those platforms? Do you have any views on that? My own views were that we do an awful lot we think is environmentally responsible, social governance has always been a big factor for us. We look after our employees and think we do that very well. What I've found is the resource to meet the criteria that these platforms require is very, very time consuming, and is really about rewriting policies and defining what you do. It becomes really, really difficult with the carbon capture aspect to look at every aspect of what you're doing within the environmental aspect, but also look at the social aspect of your employees. How it's not just about engaging with those employees to retain the staff, it's about offering them sustainable work, which hopefully pays well enough. I just wondered what your experience, said way too much, but I wondered whether you guys had experienced those kind of platforms, whether you put much mileage in that, or are you just going about it, doing your own thing, and defining what you do from an ESG and don't worry about accreditation?
I think I heard most of that. Are you talking about software platforms?
No. EcoVadis, I think SMC is EcoVadis accredited as bronze. We're also bronze. So there's how do you do that? You do a questionnaire, and you fill out your policies, upload a load of documents, and they give you a rating based on. It's a global rating.
I see, yeah. So you're talking about those sort of validation of your ESG or your sustainability. EcoVadis, it was driven out of Sweden, I think, for us, and it was mainly Sweden that drove it in Europe for us, and then Japan, our parent company, got involved to support it as well, to deliver that bronze rating. I think we've had it for 2 or 3 years now. In the UK, I suppose the validation that we've gone for is the carbon neutral through the PAS 2060. That's more environmental. We have found that beneficial because we had to get better at our data capture, our scope 1 and 2 emissions, and made us think about scope 3 as well. So we're carbon neutral at scope 1 and scope 2, have been for the last 4 years. But it's made us think about employee travel, business travel, water. These are elements of scope 3, in your operations. And we're now starting to explore water management, rainwater harvesting, things that we can now start to report, initiatives in scope 3 areas. That's what we're doing in the UK. We've not put much stead in EcoVadis here in the UK, but it is something we've been able to report to in Europe.
Any more question? We have one more last question. Yes, please. One, and, two. So the first one here, please.
Thank you. Hi, Jamie Pitcairn from Ricardo. I think that's probably for Mike. You mentioned CSRD and the resources that can take. Probably doing a double materiality is quite involved. It's a good question, I think, on EcoVadis and Scope 3 and supply chain, because I've delivered a lot of CSRD projects for manufacturing businesses, and one of the things that's relatively new, and I think manufacturing businesses are generally well managed, so Scopes 1 and 2 have been under good control for a good number of years, but double materiality CSRD is forcing you to look at the value chain and of your supply chain. I'm just wondering, how's that sort of going in terms of a new requirement, is looking at your supply chain and getting data perhaps, or checking on your supply chain performance, because the trend now is looking beyond your own operations and looking at ESG, upstream and downstream, but mainly upstream in your supply chain. So I'm wondering if that's something that's new, or if you already had quite good supplier controls in place.
We've been engaging with our supply chain, our upstream suppliers, for a number of years, through our supplier questionnaires when we onboard them, and further engagement, trying to get them to buy into delivering their Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions to us so that we can start to report Scope 3. And we're not, I would say, our suppliers, some of them are very small, local suppliers, you know, they can be 4 or 5 people. They're just not interested in maintaining that data to a level that they can share with us. Obviously, CSRD requires you to have a good view of, or an accurate view of your value chain, upstream to downstream. You know, where are you selling your products to? Which customers? You know, your life cycle. These are things that we're having to get on top of in Europe. And, you know, I'll be honest, I would say that, you know, we don't have that information right now, and we are now starting to pull that together. We're fortunate a lot of our parts used in our manufacturing come from our from Asia, Japan, China, Vietnam. That's the biggest use of materials and parts that we have is from Asia, and that is proving difficult to even get our parent company to supply that level of information about materials, you know, amount of energy that's being used to get those materials, which is ultimately where this is going. Yeah, CSRD is very challenging. We're using an external consultant, a very large, well-known global consultant, to help us on that journey. But it does make you look, you know, your own operations, your impact on society, on the environment, as well as taking the outside in look, the financial assessment. You know, what are the potential risks and impacts? You know, the market's moving to energy efficient products. SMC Corporation is already on that path. Smaller, lighter, more efficient parts for the pneumatics industry. Yeah, it gets you to look a lot deeper.
Okay. And one last question here, please.
Hi, I'm Stephen Cooney, BDO. Obviously, the purpose of manufacturing businesses, and I guess any businesses, is to make money for shareholders. And obviously, one can do that by investing in growth initiatives, investing in more productive manufacturing equipment, etc. So I was just interested to hear from the panel whether they've had to fund their ESG initiatives, whether they've had to divert investment from other areas and other aspects of what they're planning to invest in for that, generating that profitable future, and also how they're actually measuring their returns on their current ESG investments. Thank you.
Okay.
I think for us, yes, there probably would be machines that I would have rather invested in than, say, the mini skip that we invested in to process waste from the factory. And we did that during lockdown, which was obviously a scary time also. But the return on that investment was the reduction in one full-time staff member processing waste and move them into the factory to produce boxes. So that's you know, there is a benefit to it. So we did, but yes, there definitely are other machines that we would rather have invested in, but that was a benefit for efficiency to us as well. So it's enhanced the department. Over the last few years, yeah, things have been even more difficult, so investment has been reduced again. So our initiatives are always based about what can staff do, everybody's involvement, what can we do, even some small things. So that's how we view it. Yeah, EPR, for example, we're having to invest in technology to print EPR requirements for customers. So it's just a question of we've got to do it. We've got no choice. So that is an investment that we probably didn't want right now, but we've got to do it. And that's what we're working on prior to it becoming legislation. So that's that.
Yes. Simple answer is yes. Every single initiative has to wash its own face, right? And there's always a fight for how an organisation should prioritise. In the work that we do when we're working consulting with large manufacturers on this type of topic, typically one of the very things that we'll do early on during an engagement is identify a set of initiatives across all different areas of the business that are aligned to the number one priorities that they have. At the moment, are they trying to drive top-line revenue? Are they trying to take cost out? Are they trying to reduce risk? Once you've got that kind of map of business problems or use cases, it's then about prioritising them based on how easy or difficult is a solution to implement and how much value can it bring to the business. It's at that point that you're going to start drawing out the metrics by which you're going to actually measure the impact of that. So when we're thinking about sustainability related initiatives, normally they're operational efficiency kind of metrics, and they will have to go up against, when it comes to presenting the business case, they'll have to go up against the ones that are going to drive revenue. I was with a CEO of a manufacturing business not that long ago, and we had prepared a bunch of material on operational efficiency, and actually what he really wanted to talk about was, I want to sell more to our existing customers, I want to cross-sell, I want to increase EBITDA by upping our prices where we can. So these are scenarios, and in that case, what we've got to then look at when we're generating this roadmap of opportunities is some of these that can drive operational benefit by reducing the raw materials required to produce the product, as an example, or by optimizing the production process, they need to have a very, very cast iron financial business case behind them. And yeah, that's ultimately part of that prioritization process.
And just to add to that, and thank you very much as a final comment, because unfortunately we're almost running out of time. I've seen through my work with so many of our members, there's two case scenarios. Some businesses start investing because of the pressure of their clients or customer, or even the public on their businesses. But also we have seen a lot of collaboration between the businesses and their mere client. So there is investment coming from, let's say, the like of Boeing or any of the big companies like Microsoft, that size, for example, and they invest in things related to ESG. So initiative, for example, like carbon accounting or scope 1 and 2, 3 measurements and so on. So there is a lot of opportunities. But just to finalize today's session, ESG, I believe, is already your business already doing something already there. You already started the journey. It's just a matter how this is already make the dots connected. Most businesses see things like boxes. Environment is one, social is one, and thank you very much about the question related to social, because when you do something, for example, like health and safety, you make people happy, then it's increased the productivity. So it also apply to your governor and business. So I would like, by the end of today, thank you very much for all our panelists, and I want to thank you very much, and thank you for our couple. Thank you very much, and a loud applause for you. Thank you.